The gruesome tale of Veljko Belivuk's criminal network, the Principi, is one that shocks the conscience and reveals the dark intersection of organized crime, power, and corruption. Operating with ruthless precision and unimaginable cruelty, Belivuk crew had carried out heinous crimes that would eventually become one of the most notorious criminal investigations in recent Serbian history. They ran a so-called Slaughterhouse, a place designed not just for murder, but for making their enemies disappear without a trace. What started as rumors and whispers quickly transformed into a massive investigation, cracking open a world of violence and corruption that would challenge the very institutions meant to protect the public. But how did this network, so deeply embedded in the underworld, stay hidden for so long? The answer lies in the technological leap that ironically led to their downfall. For years, criminals had used encrypted communication tools to keep their operations under wraps, assuming that their messages were uncrackable. However, it wasn't long before this supposed shield of secrecy would become the very thing that brought their horrors to light. Veljko Belivuk, the leader of the Principi, was a notorious figure within Serbian organized crime. His group was linked to a number of violent activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, and murder. They were part of a larger criminal ecosystem that had been thriving in Serbia and the Balkans for years. The criminal syndicate's operations were sophisticated, and they had the resources and the connections to carry out their plans with impunity. Belivuk's gang was not just about petty crime. They had a clear and terrifying goal: to eliminate rivals and consolidate their grip on criminal power within Serbia. In doing so, they resorted to extreme violence, often carrying out murders in ways that seemed designed to send a chilling message to anyone who might cross them. Their slaughterhouse was a gruesome facility where victims were tortured, killed, and disposed of in the most horrifying ways. These acts of brutality were not isolated incidents, but rather a key part of their operation, designed to instill fear and maintain control over the region. As the Principi rose to prominence, they became an even more dangerous threat, blending organized crime with an almost military discipline. They had access to weapons, intelligence, and a network of corrupt officials who helped protect their illicit activities. They moved with such efficiency and terror that few dared challenge them, and even fewer spoke out. It wasn't until the discovery of encrypted communications that their world began to crumble. For years, the Principi operated with what they believed was an uncrackable shield: encrypted phones. These encrypted devices, provided by the now infamous Sky Global company, were widely used by criminal groups around the world. They allowed users to send messages that were allegedly immune to government surveillance, making it nearly impossible for law enforcement to track their activities. Sky Global marketed their phones as the most secure in the world. Criminals believed they were safe to communicate freely about their illegal activities without fear of interception. For years, this technology allowed Belivuk's group to operate under the radar, coordinating their operations and evading law enforcement. But, as with most criminal activities, nothing stays hidden forever. In a shocking twist, what seemed like an impenetrable barrier was shattered by an unprecedented international law enforcement collaboration. The encrypted messages that the Principi had so carefully concealed their crimes in were intercepted, decrypted, and analyzed. What followed was a damning revelation of the gang's gruesome activities, and the world would soon learn just how brutal Belivuk and his associates really were. The messages from the encrypted phones provided detailed accounts of murders, torture, and illegal activities that were almost too horrific to comprehend. These were not just street-level crimes, but well-organized executions meant to silence anyone who posed a threat to Belavuk's criminal empire. The intercepted messages painted a chilling picture of how the gang disposed of bodies in their so-called Slaughterhouse, a grisly facility where the victims were subjected to unspeakable horrors before being murdered and often dismembered. But Belavuk's operation was ruthless in its methods, employing extreme tactics that served to both eliminate rivals and create a sense of fear throughout the criminal world. In one instance, the victim was reportedly burned alive in an effort to destroy any trace of their existence. In another case, the bodies were dismembered, with body parts scattered across various locations to prevent identification. These atrocities were documented in graphic detail through the encrypted messages, revealing not just the nature of the crimes, but the chilling mindset of the criminals involved. The investigators who decrypted these messages were stunned by the level of violence and cold-bloodedness that the Principi demonstrated. What they discovered was not just a gang of criminals, but a well-oiled machine of terror, operating under the protection of a corrupt system that allowed them to thrive for years without fear of consequence. As the investigation into the Principi unfolded, it became clear that Belavuk's group did not operate in a vacuum. They had deep connections to powerful figures within Serbian society, including high-ranking officials in the police and government. One of the most shocking revelations was the involvement of Diana Hrakalovic, a top police official who allegedly failed to disclose crucial evidence about the gang's activities. Hrakalovic, who held a key position in Serbia's Ministry of Internal Affairs, was accused of turning a blind eye to the crimes committed by the Principi and even of actively aiding their operations. This revelation sparked outrage among the Serbian public and international observers, as it suggested a deep-seated corruption within the very institutions meant to uphold the law. How could such heinous crimes be allowed to continue for so long, especially when those tasked with investigating them were implicated in the cover-up? The involvement of law enforcement in shielding criminal enterprises was not limited to Hrakalovic. Other officials and members of the police force were also implicated in the scandal, suggesting that the criminal network had established a powerful web of influence that spanned beyond the underworld and into the highest echelons of Serbian society. The investigation revealed that the Principis had not only used their connections to escape justice, but had also leveraged their power to infiltrate various sectors, including the police force, the judiciary, and even political offices. This made it nearly impossible for law enforcement to take meaningful action against the group, as those in power either aided or ignored the crimes they were committing. As of today, Večko Belavuk and several of his associates are facing trial for their alleged involvement in a wide range of crimes, including murder, extortion, and organized crime. The trial has been widely publicized, with the evidence against the gang being presented in court. However, despite the shocking nature of the crimes and the overwhelming evidence against the group, the trial has been far from straightforward. One of the major challenges in the ongoing trial is the apparent lack of accountability for those in power who were allegedly complicit in shielding the Principi from prosecution. The evidence against Belavuk and his associates is damning, but questions remain about how far the corruption within Serbian institutions goes and whether those responsible for the cover-up will ever face consequences. While Belavuk's trial is moving forward, the case has become a symbol of the fight against corruption in Serbia. It has exposed the deep ties between organized crime and government officials, leaving the public with more questions than answers. How can a justice system be trusted when those tasked with enforcing the law are the ones enabling the criminals? The ongoing legal battle is a stark reminder that justice is not always swift, and those in positions of power often find ways to escape scrutiny. But the case has also ignited a conversation about the need for systemic reform and transparency within Serbia's political and law enforcement institutions. However, the eventual uncovering of the truth, thanks to the interception of encrypted messages and the tireless work of investigative journalists, has shone a light on this dark underworld. While the trial of Belivuc and his associates continues, the story is far from over. It is a stark reminder that even in the face of immense power and corruption, justice can still prevail, as long as there are those brave enough to uncover the truth.